r/AskReddit, what's the worst thing a woman has done on the first date? I showed up to grab a drink and she was already blacked out. Chatted for 30 minutes and left. The next day she messaged me asking why I never showed. Showing up to the bar 7 hours early and proceeding to get blackout drunk while repeatedly texting me throughout my workday saying I should just come now is the first thing that comes to mind. The most confusing one I've ever had was when I met this girl at this place. We sit down, some nonchalant sing, normal stuff. She asked me when my birthday was, I told her, she goes, "Oh, you're a Leo? What the fuck?" And she got up and stormed out. I was like, I may have just dodged a super ultimate bullet there. Only talk about her ex, and the breakup, talking in details about all of it, and refused to change the subject. The best part is, the breakup happened when she was 22, she's 35 now. Fun times that was. She referred to her 3 daughters as cunts in a conversation without me even knowing she had children. Yeah, cut that night short. Funny enough, she was the ex of co-worker and that created a whole new level of drama. Brought a friend to dinner. Okay, sure, bring a buddy I suppose. But the friend wanted to sit at the table and not the bar so we could have some privacy. And they both thought I was going to pay for dinner for all of us and drinks. And friend made it clear she was only there to cock block because her friend liked to sleep with guys and she was there to prevent that. I kind of felt like I was being accused of a sex crime. I just looked them both in the eye, told them, I ain't the one. And left. This was before we even got our drinks too. Told me she was pregnant by her roommate/fiancé. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. I met a girl via a dating app, wasn't instant sparks or anything, but she seemed nice enough and we had some shared interests, so I invited her out for dinner and she accepted. She showed up to the date looking like she'd rolled out of bed, sweatpants, a plain t-shirt, zero makeup. I'm not someone who thinks a first date needs to be all dressed up and formal, but it was clear she had put zero effort into her appearance. We sit down to eat and she absolutely refuses to engage in the conversation. Every question I asked got a 1 or 2 word answer with zero follow-up. Have you ever been to this restaurant before? No. How's your week going? Fine. I saw on your profile you coach Little League softball, that must be a lot of fun. It's okay. The entire time. It was painful. I finished my meal quickly, walked her to her car, thanked her for her time and left. Later that night she sent a text saying I had fun tonight. I figured she was just being polite so I didn't respond. The next morning I woke up to a text with multiple paragraphs from her calling me a jerk for ghosting her and saying how if I wasn't interested in seeing her I should be upfront and say so. It was, and I'm not exaggerating, several times as many words as she'd spoken the entire date. To this day I'm perplexed by the whole thing. All I can figure is maybe she was really anxious or something on the date. It was bizarre. This was back in my high school days around 2002 to 2003. A girl from the cheerleading team asked me out and of course I said absolutely. It was a Friday night movie date, simple date, movie, and maybe some ice cream afterwards. I showed up 15 minutes early to buy the tickets, movie was her choice, communicated during our initial date conversation, I waited in the concessions area. 15 minutes goes by, no call, no show. For you kids, this was before the first iPhone existed, God I am old, no message on my Nokia phone, I still have it and it still works. I wait another 15 minutes and the movie is about to start. Still no call, no show. I wait another 10 minutes before I head into the movie by myself. I hated the movie, it was called 13. After the movie was done, no call, no show. So I went home. Next Monday a bunch of the guys in my class and girls were all asking how my date went while snickering. I was set up on a fake date. We had ordered drinks and an appetizer after she picked one of the most expensive restaurants in town. She took a few sips, and then asked me about my job. I explained a little bit about it, said it was pretty boring unless you are a software/firmware/network nerd, and asked her about her. She asks, does it pay well? I kinda agree and then try a second time to change subject. She says, I'm asking you how much you make, because I don't want to waste my time on someone who is broke. I tell her that it's complicated, because when you get to a certain level at a company, you become a flight risk, but also a risk to their long-term strategy as you are considered a strategic asset. So they won't overpay you, but your salary is basically name your price. She says, do you make more than $250,000 a year or not? That's when I knew it was unsalvageable. She was not just tactless, but rude as well. Also, she would invariably be the type of person to think they should spend all the money as fast as they could. I looked her dead in the eyes and said, image thinking $250,000 a year is a lot of money, paid for the food, tipped stupidly, and left. It was the only date where I felt like I couldn't continue it. We had previously agreed on a restaurant time and to just do separate bills, to which I would offer to pick up hers at the end to be polite. I arrived on time and messaged that I was there. I got a reply stating she was already inside and seated. The server had just bought her another glass of wine and was walking away with an empty wine glass and a shot glass. The first words out of her mouth weren't even hello, they were, you're paying, right? I don't have any money. I didn't breathe a word. I just turned around and left. She suggested we go to a party she was invited to. Most of the party she spent in the bathroom snorting cocaine and having sex with the ex-boyfriend she claimed that she hated. I did meet a cool dude in a punk band. I ended up dating his sister a couple months later. She was late and explained that she needed to break into her ex's house, who she broke up with less than a week before, real quick. She then showed me her bad/unflattering nudes that she posted on Reddit. Edit, I do not remember where the nudes were posted. Bragged about stealing, yes, literally stealing behind his back, her last boyfriend's Gucci watch. Then proceeded to complain about her last date for being too fat, then genuinely got offended I had an Android phone instead of an Apple. Real nice person. OMG. I have one. A beautiful girl in my college class invited me on a date. We were in the same study group and fast became friends, hanging out on breaks and meeting up at the library. She picked a fairly upscale restaurant, at least for college kids. She dressed to impress, and she was comedic, animated, and held a great conversation. She was very flirty, and I knew where this was heading afterward. The bill comes. It's more pricey than I hoped. We were drinking a fair amount, but she grabbed the check. I offer to pay my share, and she rejects it. She says her dad's a dentist and gives her plenty of money. I, on the other hand, pay for my own school, rent, and bills by working at a restaurant, eating leftovers off of plates, and scrapping by. So I was stoked that she invited me, is paying for the date, and clearly, she is planning on using me for hot sex. Then, her debit card is rejected. And her credit card. And her other card. She is turning multiple shades of red, talks about must be fraud, etc. I serve tables, I just make eye contact with the server, and we both play along with her. Server leaves to try the card one last time. I excuse myself from the table, catch up with the server, and tell her to run my card, but I may be short and certainly don't have enough to pay a tip. I promise I'll come back with the difference and a tip before closing. That taken care of, we head to her car, but she can't drive, I dare not. My APT is close by, but she insists on driving. I make a move to kiss her, she gets sloppy with me, so distracted I take her keys from her coat pocket. I tease her with the keys, say I'll drive because it's confusing where to park at my place. She is in the passenger seat. I actually have no intent to drive, but I needed time to figure out the next moves. I have to get money and go back, so I'm not stiffing the server, but I need to gracefully exit the date. Problem solves itself. She looks me dead in the eyes and says drunkenly something like, "I will suck your dick all night if you pick up some coke. You work at a restaurant, right? You know someone?" The entire evening just made sense. Up to that point, I was sympathetic, thinking how embarrassed she must be. Now, I'm pretty pissed. So, I decided to drive her back to her apartment through a stream of begging, sobbing, then yelling, and all the antics you could guess. I walk towards her apartment, she's following, trying to pull me back. Roommate hears a ruckus, and intervenes, although confused AF. My date is so worked up that she starts to yak on the walkway. Roommate sees her GF is super drunk, so corrals her inside, where with vomit on her dress all of a sudden seems totally oblivious to the entire night, is acting all cute again, saying how great the date was, do I want to come inside, etc etc. I quietly hand the car keys to roommate who is pulling her inside. I bail. Rest of the night, I'm off to my work where I barter friends for some cash. I then rush back to the restaurant and catch our server in the bar area. She stuck around with other off-the-clock friends just in case I returned. The place was basically closed at this point. So, I settled up with her, although with about $8 in change. The group had heard all about my date, so they invited me to sit and share the rest of the story. Bar comped me a beer, so I started. Tonight was the worst date in the history of dates. Rolled her eyes over the idea that I researched where to take her on a date. It was a cafe with a harpist. That shit was magical. Snapped her fingers at the waitress to get her attention. Alright, I was talking to this girl for a while online and we were hitting it off great, common interests, can't stop talking, all the cutesy stuff. We set up a meet to chill at my place. I'm sitting there all excited, BC I'm gone get some cat. I get a text, she here, I run outside to see a big ass pickup truck, her in the back seat, and her parents in the front. Y'all, I was 23 at the time and just kind of looked at them. Her dad leans out the window and goes, "You know she's 17, right? Like, it's fine but you're the legal adult for a bit, so don't let her get into nothing." Bro, what? Felt like Pops was pimping out his kid to me. I just noped the fuck out of there and walked back in my house. Deleted/blocked her on everything, and about a month later got a snap from her along with a picture of my house talking about "It's my birthday, we can be together now." So, yeah, I stopped talking to strangers on the internet after that. Where do I begin? Within 5 minutes she told me she just broke off an engagement. 10 minutes later she said she went out with a guy the previous week, hit it off with him, but then when he went to the bathroom she left the bar with another guy in a cab. Told me to buy her drinks. Said I'd be sitting at the table while she's in the bathroom. I look up 10 minutes later and she's talking to the bartender drinking. Asked her what's up. She said she didn't see me. I drank her beer and left. Texted her that I had a great time sarcastically and said she wanted to meet up again. Wacko. It wasn't exactly a date, it was basically dinner and a hookup, that didn't end up happening. We had been acquaintances in high school, but she was older than me, and she ran with a more popular crowd, so I'd never really gotten to know her. She'd just gotten out of a long-term relationship with the guy who had been the quarterback when we were back in school, and wanted to cross off some bucket list stuff. The dinner was fine. She made some off-color remarks, which I didn't think about too much because we were young. I was 21 and she was probably 23 to 24. The hookup was, well, not fine. She insisted on having Ed, and Eddie on in the background. She referred to jizz as papier-mâché, more than once. She would only refer to genitals in the way a kid might, like pee-pee and cookie. I couldn't do it. I felt like I was either being pranked or involved in a fetish I didn't agree to. I made an excuse about not feeling well and left. The very next day my buddy asks if it's okay if he takes her out to dinner. I let him know what happened, and he says he'll feel it out. Apparently at the restaurant she tried to give him a handjob under the table, challenged him to a belching contest, he didn't participate, and she threw up in her mouth a little bit, and at one point, sharted down her pant leg after forgetting she was lactose intolerant. She went back to his place to shower, and he still hooked up with her afterward and had the same experience I did. A couple of years later I had a job cleaning corporate bathrooms with the guy who used to be the quarterback. He described her as the one that got away and spent the entire time I worked with him talking about how he'd never find a woman like her again. Sure dude, whatever you say. Thanks for watching. Leave a like if you have enjoyed this video and subscribe to never miss an upload.